You didn't lose them suddenly. You lost them the moment your behavior stopped being stable. Not when they pulled away, not when the messages slowed, not when the tone changed. Earlier than that. It happened when you started checking your phone more often than before, when silence made you uneasy, when your mood began to depend on a reply. It happened when your tone shifted based on how fast they responded. Short reply, you became careful. Warm reply, you relaxed. Your behavior stopped standing on its own. You explained yourself when no explanation was asked for. You clarified feelings that weren't questioned. You filled gaps that didn't need to be filled. Not because you cared too much, but because you felt pressure. You became more available when tension appeared. You adjusted your pace to match their distance. You softened behavior to avoid losing momentum. None of this felt dramatic. None of it felt wrong. It felt reasonable. It felt mature. It felt like effort. But attraction doesn't respond to intention. It responds to control. Attraction doesn't disappear suddenly. Control disappears quietly. And when control leaves, perception shifts. Not consciously, not emotionally, automatically. Your value didn't change, your position didn't change, your behavior did. That change rewrote how you were experienced. You didn't lose them because you weren't enough. You lost them because, under pressure, your behavior stopped holding its shape. You didn't lose them. You exposed loss of control. Attraction is not an emotion. It is perception under pressure. And perception is shaped by how predictable behavior remains when conditions shift. Control creates predictability. Predictability creates safety. Safety allows attraction to hold its position. When control weakens, behavior becomes volatile. Not chaotic, just inconsistent enough to be noticed. Nothing obvious breaks. No decision is made. No conclusion is reached. Perception adjusts on its own. The moment your behavior starts reacting to signals, attraction stops reading you as stable. It reads you as responsive. Responsiveness sounds positive, but under pressure, it signals uncertainty. Your availability begins to fluctuate. Your tone carries expectation. Your actions feel influenced rather than grounded. This is how perception shifts. Not because effort increased, but because independence decreased. Attraction does not evaluate how much you care. It evaluates how much your behavior depends on outcome. When behavior stands on its own, perception remains intact. When behavior bends to manage response, perception recalibrates. No one chooses this shift. It happens automatically. The mind reads patterns faster than emotion can explain them. Control communicates reliability without words. Loss of control communicates sensitivity to outcome. That sensitivity changes how presence is experienced. What once felt steady now feels conditional. What once felt grounded now feels reactive. Nothing you said caused this. Nothing they decided caused this. Behavior did. And because this shift happens quietly, most people misinterpret it. They assume attraction faded. They assume interest changed. In reality, perception was rewritten by instability. Attraction didn't disappear. It adjusted to what behavior began signaling. Not lack of value, lack of control. Once perception adjusts, it does not need reinforcement. It holds until behavior proves otherwise, which is why reacting feels harmless at first, and why it carries consequences long before they become visible.
Reacting feels natural because emotion demands response. Silence triggers movement. Distance invites explanation. Uncertainty pushes action. The body wants to correct imbalance. That instinct is not wrong. but it is incompatible with attraction. Reacting hands control to the moment. It allows emotion to dictate behavior, and attraction does not respond to emotion. It responds to structure. When you react, your behavior stops leading. It starts following. You reply because tension appeared. You explain because distance felt uncomfortable. You adjust because uncertainty created pressure. Each reaction feels justified in isolation. Together, they form a pattern where behavior no longer stands independently. Calm behavior communicates stability. Reactive behavior communicates sensitivity. Sensitivity is not weakness, but in attraction, sensitivity signals dependency on outcome. Presence becomes pressure when it is driven by response. Care becomes interference when it tries to regulate emotion. This is why reacting feels like connection, but produces distance. It replaces steadiness with immediacy. It replaces grounded presence with emotional alignment. Attraction requires the ability to remain unchanged while emotion moves through the system. Reacting does the opposite. It reshapes behavior to match feeling. Over time, this creates a subtle imbalance. The person who reacts becomes readable, predictable in response, influenced by shifts they did not create. Attraction does not punish this, it simply adjusts. What once felt solid now feels responsive. What once felt composed now feels alert, not because effort increased, but because control transferred. Reacting feels caring because it reduces internal discomfort, but attraction is not maintained by comfort. It is maintained by behavior that remains intact even when emotion is present. This is why reacting feels human and yet quietly dismantles attraction, because attraction is not built on reaction, it is built on restraint under pressure.
Control is often misunderstood. It is confused with dominance, with authority over others, with forcing outcomes. That is not the control attraction responds to. Control in this context is internal. It is self-directed. It governs behavior, not people. Attraction does not respond to who has power. It responds to who remains composed when power is irrelevant. Control begins with pace. When behavior maintains its rhythm regardless of response, it signals independence from outcome. When pace accelerates to secure attention, control has already shifted. Control continues with response. Not every signal requires reaction. Not every gap requires explanation. Not every emotion requires expression. Control is the ability to let moments pass without rewriting behavior to manage discomfort. This is not emotional suppression, it is emotional containment. Control also governs standards. Standards are not rules announced in advance. They are limits revealed through consistency. They are enforced by behavior that does not negotiate when pressure appears. When standards soften to preserve connection, control is exchanged for reassurance. Attraction reads that exchange immediately. Control is not about withholding, it is about alignment. Alignment between internal state and external behavior. When behavior remains aligned, presence feels grounded. When behavior shifts to regulate emotion, presence feels conditional. This distinction matters, because attraction does not respond to intention, it responds to what behavior communicates under stress. Control communicates self-sufficiency. Loss of control communicates dependence on outcome, not neediness, dependence, and dependence alters perception. This is why control must remain quiet. The moment control is performed, it becomes compensation. The moment restraint is used to influence, it becomes manipulation. True control does not attempt to shape response. It allows response to exist without adjustment. This is not detachment,
it is self-regulation. In relationships, control creates a stable reference point, a behavioral constant others orient around. Without it, interaction becomes reactive. Mutual adjustment replaces structure. Attraction does not thrive in mutual adjustment. It stabilizes around consistency. Control is the ability to remain unchanged while the emotional environment fluctuates. Not rigid, not cold, intact. This is why control is attractive without being visible, and why dominance is visible without being attractive. One governs self, the other attempts to govern outcome. Attraction only responds to the first.
Most people don't lose control because they lack discipline. They lose it because fear enters the system. Fear of losing access, fear of being replaced, fear of silence meaning rejection. That fear doesn't arrive loudly. It arrives as urgency. Urgency rewrites behavior. The pace changes first. Messages come faster. Availability increases. Then standards soften. Small things are ignored. Boundaries are delayed instead of enforced. Not consciously, not intentionally. The mind justifies it as flexibility, as understanding, as emotional intelligence. But the system registers it as instability. Reassurance becomes the new objective. Behavior stops existing for its own sake and starts existing to reduce uncertainty. This is where control dissolves, not in a moment of weakness, but in repeated micro-adjustments. Each adjustment feels harmless. Each one feels temporary. Together, they form dependency on outcome. Most people cannot maintain control in love because love introduces stakes, and stakes invite negotiation with self. Discipline holds when nothing is at risk. It collapses when attachment becomes conditional. This is why control is easiest before attraction forms, and hardest when it matters most. The desire to preserve connection overrides the desire to preserve structure. Behavior becomes reactive to preserve closeness, and closeness begins to cost control. No one teaches this failure. It happens quietly. By the time it's noticed, control has already been replaced by regulation-seeking behavior. Not because the person lacked strength, but because they prioritized reassurance over integrity. Most people don't lose control dramatically. They surrender it gradually, and attraction responds to that surrender long before anyone names it. Which is why maintaining control in love is not about effort. It is about resisting the urge to let fear rewrite behavior.
Loss of control does not end relationships quickly. It reshapes them slowly. When control remains intact, attraction stabilizes. It does not spike. It does not fluctuate. It holds its position over time. Behavior stays predictable under pressure. Standards remain enforced without discussion. Presence feels steady rather than responsive. The relationship gains weight. When control is lost, the outcome is different. Attraction does not disappear. It recalibrates downward. Respect becomes inconsistent. Interest becomes conditional. Tension fades without conflict. The relationship may continue. Communication may remain. Affection may still exist, but the dynamic changes. Behavior begins to orbit reassurance. Pace adjusts to avoid distance. Standards bend to maintain closeness. Nothing dramatic happens. No single moment causes collapse. Instead, attraction settles into familiarity. Not comfort, familiarity. The kind that removes urgency. The kind that reduces polarity. The kind that no longer requires attention. Over time, this creates imbalance. One side regulates, the other responds. Not intentionally, structurally. Attraction cannot survive long-term in a system where control has been exchanged for reassurance. It doesn't protest. It doesn't demand correction. It simply lowers its involvement. This is why many relationships feel intact but lack presence, why people stay but no longer feel chosen. The difference between these outcomes is not chemistry, not communication, not effort. It is whether behavior remained self-governed when attachment introduced pressure. Attraction does not reward intensity. It rewards stability under conditions that invite loss of control. And once attraction recalibrates downward, it rarely rises without structural change, which leads to the final rule.
Attraction does not follow effort. It follows control. Not control over another person. Control over behavior when emotion applies pressure. This is the distinction most people never make. They believe attraction responds to intention, to care, to consistency of feeling. It does not. Attraction responds to what remains unchanged when reassurance is unavailable. When behavior holds its shape, attraction remains oriented. When behavior adjusts to manage outcome, attraction repositions. This is not punishment, it is alignment. Attraction aligns itself with stability. That stability is not created by confidence. Confidence fluctuates with response. It is created by discipline. Discipline is the refusal to let emotion rewrite behavior. It is the ability to remain intact while attachment introduces uncertainty. No explanation is required. No display is needed. No correction is demanded. Control speaks without words. This is why attraction often leaves quietly, not because something was missing, but because something shifted. The shift was not value. It was not effort. It was control. Once control is gone, attraction does not argue. It adjusts, and it follows the same rule every time. Attraction doesn't follow how much you try. It doesn't follow how much you feel. It follows how consistently your behavior remains self-governed under pressure. That is the rule, and it does not change.